Hello and welcome in to our notes, this section on absolutism and its specifics as it relates to Europe. So let's dive in. So first, what kind of causes this shift from the beginning? And that really comes down to the fact that there's a lot of kind of uncertainty in Europe at this time. You have religious and kind of territorial conflicts going back to the Protestant Reformation, and this conflict between Catholic and Protestant territories creating uncertainty. You have armies growing, high taxes as a result of that can lead to revolt. And this basically all comes back to the general idea that in order for us as a society at this time in Europe to survive, we need a strong central ruler who can kind of restore order to things. And that's really where the absolute monarch comes in. This king or queen, they have full control and power over what's going on with their empire's affairs. And what this really looks like, kind of down on a central level, is that rulers regulate what's going on. They're censoring information by censoring religious worship and social gatherings. They're changing what the size of their court looks like, basically as a way of consolidating their power away from the kind of old feudal structures of the nobility in Europe. And they're having a tighter control on the economy as well. And the reason that they can exert all this control comes down to this concept of divine right. And divine right is when a monarch, or this belief that a monarch is chosen by God as their representative. And therefore, because they only really answer to God, they can do whatever they would like on earth, okay? Because they're seen as a vessel of a higher being, which gives them pretty large latitudes to make whatever decisions they would like. The kind of first example that we can talk about with this is as it relates to Philip II, who's kind of one of the first individuals that kind of rules over a nation state. When Charles V divides up the Holy Roman Empire, the part of the Habsburg Empire that goes to Philip is Spain. And that's going to grow into a pretty large chunk of territory between their colonial holdings in the New World, as well as holdings that they seized from the Portuguese in other places around the global south during his reign. One of the big things that we can look at is economically at this time and resource-wise, Philip II and Spain are ridiculously wealthy. You're talking about annually getting 300,000 pounds or more of gold that are exported from the Americas, and about a quarter of that going directly to Philip and his family, using it for the army and whatnot. But it again makes Philip and Spain very wealthy. He's considered to be a defender of Catholicism, mainly because he does not like the Muslims that had previously invaded and control still parts of northern Africa. He also doesn't love Protestants and sees them as a threat to Europe as well. And because of that, he's going to have a pretty strict reign on religion as it relates to Spain. Now, Spain will start to fall apart for a number of reasons. A lot of it comes down to the economics and the policies that Philip puts in place. Because of taxes, as well as just a rapid rise of inflation due to the amount of gold and silver that were being imported into Spain, we see vast issues related to consumer pricing. Basically what happens is there's an increase of population, food prices jump up, but since they're using lots and lots of silver, and they're continually mining more and more silver from the Americas, the value of silver, we start to see issues related to inflation with how much silver coinage is actually stretching for the average person in Spain, which really starts to upset the local economy or the national economy of Spain. We also see that there's not really a robust economy in Spain. It's more so just the fact that they have these resources. There's high taxes on the lower class. That means that there's not a ton of money out there. We also have inflation, so any kind of leftover currency is not worth enough to really kind of stimulate any sort of economic growth. And the other big thing is with the expulsion of Muslims, okay, or Moors that lived in Spain, as well as Jews earlier on, we see that the Spanish economy is kind of stunted, even going into the reign of Philip. So these economic problems are only worse because you don't have a very strong economy. And this causes Spain to go bankrupt 3 times. Despite this, they still will be a player on the world stage, but just kind of in a diminished sense moving forward. The other territory that they lose during this time is the Netherlands. The Netherlands used to all be controlled by Spain, or the Low Countries were controlled by Spain. So that stretches into parts of Luxembourg, but also into the territories that would be Belgium as well. And again, due to the control that Philip has over religion, we see that the Dutch are not pleased because they are Calvinist. And they start to protest against Philip and Spain's reign, and eventually are able to declare their independence. And this takes place where the 7 northern provinces of the Netherlands break away and form their own independent country, while the southern provinces, what will become Belgium, remain loyal and are part of what's called, at that point in time, the Spanish Netherlands. The big deal with this is that we see that there's an economic shift, but also it's an important political marker. First, from the political standpoint, this is kind of one of the first challenges that we see to absolute power, that people in other locations can rise up against these absolute rulers and challenge their power, again, power that they get through divine right or from God. The other big thing that we can look at with this is that the Dutch really start to change what the economic situation looks like in Europe at this time. They become a banking center. There's artistic works that are being created by people like Rembrandt, and they also create what's going to be the largest naval fleet and shipping fleet at that time as well. And this is going to be really important because the Dutch will be a player in trade here moving forward. And again, when you think about these theories and the kind of growing power of absolutism, despite these challenges and these problems that are taking place in Spain, both economically as well as these kind of political issues related to their dominions, we see that European monarchs really start to grapple and really hold on to this idea that they are accountable to God and accountable to God alone. Again, divine right. We see that this is going to start to take place in other kingdoms and other regions in Europe. That with the decline of feudalism and the decline of church power, we're going to see that monarchs start to centralize that power with themselves. And between that and the use of military, we see that a very strong consolidation of that power under the rule of a king or queen. Next class, we will look at a little bit more with the reign of King Louis XIV and his reign over France. So again, thank you for listening. Hope this was helpful in kind of going through some of the basics of and the causes of absolutism in Europe. Thanks for listening.